It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, I'm going to get on my Sharp interactive board. I got my magic pen in my hand. We're going to battle, folks. We got battle on two fronts. We got the mega dealers out there that have to decide how they're going to continue on. And then we also have the OEMs that have to decide how they're going to defeat the presumed biggest one in the room, HP. I know HP is the biggest one in the room, but folks, I'm so sick of hearing people talking about how they're going to be the last one standing. Well, they sure as hell will be the last one standing if the other OEMs don't get off their ass and start fighting. And over the last 15 months, we haven't seen a whole lot of fighting from the other OEMs. So I'm hoping today's video will stir them up a little bit and get them excited to go into battle so that the presumed last one standing ends up falling. It is a competition. You know, when you talk like that, falling, defeat, some people get all upset about it. But in a declining marketplace, defeat's part of the game. In a declining marketplace, the strong survive. In a declining marketplace, it takes bold-ass leadership to be the strong that will survive. So without any further ado, let's talk about the mega dealers. Ladies and gentlemen, here they are. I put them on a map. I put them on a map so we can kind of see them a little bit better. Kind of we can start visualizing how some of this could come together. Folks, here's the deal. If you don't think about how things could be, you're always surprised when they just show up and surprise you, right? It's time to start thinking about things. It's time to start looking at our industry through a different landscape, through a landscape of change. It was about, 3 or 4 years ago, I wrote an article and I was talking about the taxi medallions and how they fell in value when the infrastructure of the transportation industry changed through the rideshare. When the rideshare industry came, all those taxi medallions up in New York were worthless. They were worthless. Their end users could get from point A to point B through a different means, change the game, change the infrastructure, and guess what happened? The medallions have become worthless. When I look at our major mega dealers here on the board today, I think about those taxi medallions. I think about how there's a whole lot of serial numbers on printers out in the marketplace that have declining revenue every single day, and that revenue will continue to decline. I see very little diversification into other products and services to offset the declines that are coming. And folks, there has to be a major shift. There has to be a major change in how we play the game. Otherwise, the print business itself will be like those medallions in New York City. Be worthless. And so the private equity groups that own these organizations, and some of them don't own them, some of these are privately held organizations, but they're big. These are the ones that I see as the biggest in the room, if you will. And so if you're not on the board, I'm not insulting you. You're just not playing in my mind the way these folks are today. So let's talk about our friends over at Dex. We've all heard the news that Staples, the CEO of Staples, Sandy Douglas, is leaving. Sandy came over from Coke. Hadn't been there very long. Outsider coming in. He did some interesting things. He bought Dex Imaging. Boy, when my vision of that came together, I was so excited. When I heard Dan Doyle talking one time about how he wanted to have $1 billion worth of distribution, I got excited. That's a big number. $1 billion dealer owned by Staples. What, a $10 billion company? Man, that's huge. They could do so many things, right? We'll see what happens with the new leadership. Will the new leadership have the same aspirations as Sandy had? Will the new leadership have the same dynamics that Dan Doyle and Sandy had? I'm sure they had their own relationship, right? What's going to change between Staples and Dex? How's Dex going to get to the billion? How's Dex going to change the game? Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of talk out there about who's the biggest. And a lot of these folks probably sit near the same amount of revenue. We know that Dex Imaging's, $350, $400 million. Marco's $400 million. Folks, here's the deal. I'm just going to throw it out there. I normally don't predict things about mega dealers and how they might come together, but we had a global pandemic. A lot of crap's changed, right? So I'm just going to make the prediction here today. I got to get my pen working because you're going to like this prediction. I think some of you might like this prediction. I'm going to predict that Dex has to really shake it up. And they have to come out with a bang. We all realize they got those 10 offices from Konica, but when I read that article and saw that only 65 people went with those offices, that leads me to believe those are pretty small offices, right? And, you're not going to get to the $1 billion with small offices. So what if Dex went up here and just bought Marco? I'm just going to say it. What if they just bought Marco? It gives them IT, and I know we've all heard the Doyles talking about how they don't want to get into IT services. Well, they don't want to get into it, but that doesn't mean they don't want to just go ahead and acquire it already gotten into pretty well, because we all know that Marco does IT pretty well. So is that a possibility? Possibilities become probabilities, probabilities become reality quicker than ever. That's an infrastructure change. Those two together, on the low side, folks, is probably 700 million. That's only 300 million away from the billion. That also gives them a pretty substantial IT services company that they could do what with? Well, they could go down there and get those DEX customers on IT platforms. Folks, look at the board. Think of the geography that Marco has, that DEX Imaging has. What would a deal between DEX and Marco do to the OEMs? That's something to think about. You know? I mean, obviously, DEX just formed a relationship with Conoco a little bit deeper. We know they sell Kyocera. How would Sharp play into that? This is where the OEMs, they got to start thinking about this shit too. Because as the dealers come together and change the landscape, you know, the landscape for them changes too. But, you know, think about our friends over at UBO. You know, UBO owns a company called Ray Morgan on the West Coast. You know, they talk a little bit about IT, but like I said, they're not doing IT as a big substantial part of their business right at this point in time. And so, you know, a DEX could go over there and do something like that. That would get them a couple $100 million business, right? But that's like buying another taxi medallion in my mind, right? You just buy another taxi medallion. You're buying more revenue that's declining. You know, could you do a deal with a Marco because you got the IT infrastructure and then go do a deal with UBO? That would be interesting. That would get them the $1 billion, wouldn't it? Think of the geographic territory that would be. It would put them out west with Ray Morgan, put them all through Texas. But folks, that would be huge. It would also be over $1 billion. How else could DEX get to their $1 billion? Well, they could go over there and get FlexPrint. What's FlexPrint? A couple $100 million. FlexPrint's kind of all over the place, right? So FlexPrint would give them distribution all over the place. If they just bought FlexPrint, would it be just like buying more taxi medallions? But if they bought Marco with the IT piece, it's not another taxi medallion, it's an infrastructure change to the whole dynamics of DEX Imaging. What else does Marco give DEX? And I like to talk about leadership sometimes. But you know, when you have a strategic acquisition, a lot of times the leaders in those organizations play part in that. Maybe that's what's going on over at Staples. You know, Staples wants to buy Office Depot's retail, right? Well, maybe the Office Depot retail leader is in better position to run the new Staples Office Depot retail together than Sandy was. Who knows? But leadership can play a big part of the acquisition strategy. Think about our friends, the Doyles. I mean, Dan Doyle Sr., he wants to get out on that yacht more and more, right? Dan Doyle Jr., does he want to be a chairman? Maybe he wants a seat on the board of Staples. Who knows? Buying Marco, what does it give him? It gives him Doug Alberts to be the president of $1 billion copier dealership, right? Folks, I don't know any of this to be true, but when I look at the board and I look at the players on the board and I think about it, the dynamics, there's some really good possibilities here that make really good sense. And if you're an OEM, you're looking at this the same way I'm looking at it. I'm hoping you are anyway. How does this affect our distribution? You know, how does this affect us going forward with our other partners? Think about our friends up here at POA. You know, POA, nothing to sneeze at. They're not private equity owned. They're a big organization, right? What are they, 300 million, $400 million? Could you imagine if Doug called Doug and those two Dougs called Dan? Talk about 3D. I mean, folks, think about it. Oh, gosh, POA, Marco, and DEX Imaging. What a force that would be. So, folks, the bottom line is the big guys and gals, I don't see them buying up little guys and gals anymore. It's time for the big guys and gals to start buying up each other, because the private equity in some of these groups, they want an ROI. The private equity in these groups, they want to change the infrastructure of what they have to something that they can bank on to be worth more later. I don't think any of these private equity groups realize that print's going to be their future growth and their ROI. I mean, if they are, they're just nuts, and I don't think private equity people are nuts. And so they have to figure out a way to change the game. And the only way you're going to change the game is to change the infrastructure. Just some things to think about, but I got to be honest with you, folks. The more I look at this, the more excited I get. I can't wait for some of this stuff to actually happen, because we know it's going to happen, right? Let's take a minute now and talk about these OEMs. My gosh, folks, the OEMs I can be a little bit more critical of, because they're just big companies. They should know better. So the first thing I want to say is, what the hell are you all doing? I am so sick and tired of hearing people say in the marketplace how HP is going to be the last one standing. Folks, we should be doing everything we can as a group of OEMs outside of HP to wipe them off the map. Boy, when you say things like wipe people off the map, people get upset. Can't you be nice, Ray? No, we're in a consolidation. This is war. Consolidation's not for wimps. It's going to get brutal. It's going to get more brutal. As these OEMs come together, some OEMs go away, things are going to change. I just wish the hell they'd start changing. So let's just talk about something really quick here, ladies and gentlemen. I want to get my board working. We hear HP all the time talking about this crazy nonsense with their A3, and then they got this Amplify contract. They refuse to do the deal with Xerox. They've done some really stupid things, okay? In my opinion. Stupid things. And so why are they the presumed leader? Just because all the press gets a lot of advertising money from HP, so they don't want to ask them any tough questions? I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking the question. But when I look at my friends over here at Lexmark, A4 business, okay, right, here's the deal. 51% owned by 9-Star, 49% owned by PAG, private equity group in there. So what's going to happen with Lexmark? Who knows? Does it go all the way to 9-Star? Does someone take out 9-Star? I think about, by the way, Lexmark, their A4 business is through about $3.5 billion. Our friends over at Brother's about a $6 billion company. 60% of their revenue comes out of their print business. They're about $3.5 billion themselves. What if Brother and Lexmark came together? $7 billion worth of A4. Now you're all saying, Lexmark and Brother, that's just crazy. Well, crazier shits happen, right? We got to start thinking about some possibilities, because this is the bullseye. Folks, these folks, they're going to make some strange bedfellows, because this is the bullseye. The presumptive winner in all this, if you listen to them. But I don't think HP's the presumptive winner if all these other folks would get off their ass and start fighting. What have you done for the last 15 months? Folks, here's the deal. You got Fuji Film. I was in Chicago earlier this week. I stayed at the hotel. I walk outside there. There's a Fuji van. I'm thinking to myself, oh, they're already here. They're in Chicago. What are they doing? Maybe they were in there trying to sell an A3 to the hotel. Who knows? But folks, if they come here without some kind of distribution, they would be insane. So they're coming here with distribution. Who are they going to partner up with? That's the question. We're pretty sure it's probably not going to be Xerox unless they can figure the shit out, get over their past egos and get over their past fight. But I still believe that Xerox and Konica have great potential. A lot of y'all are saying, Xerox and Konica, Ray, that's crazy. Konica's already selling off their direct operations. They sold them to the dealers. They're doubling down on direct. They're just cleaning things up. They're not going to do anything with Xerox. I want to make this clear, because I still think people don't understand my vision of a Konica and a Xerox relationship. Konica's a manufacturer for Xerox. That's it. Xerox isn't going to buy Konica. They're just going to sell their products. And folks, when you look at the board, they're the ones. I just wish they would do it. I mean, Konica makes some fantastic products. Xerox needs A3 products. Konica makes some fantastic industrial print products. Xerox needs industrial roll and ink machines, right? Konica gives them these things. There's a lot of things that Konica and Xerox could do together. And we all know that the OEMs, and I'm not saying this to beat up any OEM, the OEMs are struggling at delivering direct. OEMs make things that others sell. That's just what an OEM does. And maybe in the year 2021 and 2022 and 2025, the OEMs have to rethink that direct strategy, right? Think about our friends over at Sharp. I did that video on them, last Friday or Monday, I guess it was. By the way, that was a fantastic reviews on that video, and I thank everybody for that. I think that thing was shared 62 times through LinkedIn. Thousands of people watched it. I do appreciate all the support that I got on that. But ladies and gentlemen, Sharp, they're making all these other products, besides print. Will they start distributing all those other products through these other players? Sure they will. Why not? Will they form some kind of relationships with our friends down at Xerox and some of their boards and stuff? Why not? Call them up. Because, folks, this is the enemy. I don't know how many times I got to say that. And look at what HP's really doing. They keep bragging about their top-line revenue, $56 billion company. Well, who gives a crap when most of the revenue's coming out of the PCs in the computer business, which represents 5% margin? That's not going to get you where you need to go, right? And that business, that computer business, is going to get so competitive that I just don't think HP realizes how competitive that computer business is going to get. And that's all they got. They got the computers and they got the printers. And so there's an opportunity for these other folks to come in there and kick them a little bit. Because we are in a war. We're in a war for consolidation. This isn't some walk through the garden, right? This is war. Our friends at Canon, they got a relationship with HP. Epson, who knows what they're doing. They got some great products out there, right? The inkjet technologies. But what did they do? They got sidetracked with the A3 nonsense. I keep saying they should just join up with HP. They're both kind of delusional in that respect. Rico and Kyocera, folks, I've been talking about this for a while. Just get together, call each other up, go to dinner, drink a bottle of wine, and make the deal happen. We need consolidation. Kyocera and Rico would be fantastic coming together. Right? Think about it. That would be a powerhouse. Be a powerhouse to challenge these folks down here at HP. So, ladies and gentlemen, there has to be some shakeups. But more importantly, we as an industry, and when I say we, all the actors, all the dealers, whether you're big or whether you're a small dealer, or whether you're one of those mega dealers I just talked about, you can't allow these folks in the middle here to get all of your data, to position themselves in a market where they don't need you when the future moves from A3 to A4. All the OEMs out there, it's up to you whether you want to win the war or not, whether you want to just cave in, give up, and say, okay, HP will be the biggest last one standing. Or get past your damn egos, get past all you thought was impossible and make it possible, and let's change an industry. Let's change the infrastructure of an industry forever. Let's bring end users products and services that change their lives. And let's not pretend that putting dots on paper is all that's left for our industry. Because it's not. If we can get past our egos, nonsensical noise, and if we're willing to go fight like we've never fought before. Because HP, they do have some money. They are $56 billion. And we could just let them control the conversation, or we could take it away from them. But my friends, we all know this. Status quo is the killer of all that will be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all on Monday.